Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey, hey, hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben.
on Spoiled Rotten.
Oh, Nashville.
Boom. Yeah. Well, we're here to revisit season 5 of X-Men. I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be a long episode. I don't really have much to say about this season.
I think anyone that's been listening to this entire series will not be surprised by that. You and I have not been very enthusiastic about the OG stuff, despite its rankings, and I say that because like now I'm fully caught up to the current 97 series, and I'm like, man, I just want to get to talking about that. I really do. So yeah, and I think once I get to the OG series, I'm gonna have to probably revisit my ranking of the seasons and readjust them because I think I've been very generous.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. It's really hard to watch X-Men 97 and then try and that's why I was saying I kept kind of remind you we're revisiting. Like for you hadn't watched it, but for me it's like it's a revisit, not trying to be objective. It's literally like, okay, this is my take on this, knowing what is out there now.
Right, right. And it's hard to hold back. I get how in the first few episodes you're just like and I'm just like, oh, this is great. And it's just like, wait, is it great or is it just nostalgia hitting hard right now? Because I do believe now it is nostalgia hitting hard.
Must have been because
Must be.
like I think I stand by my ratings. I don't know,
Right.
but like it also is just like it's not as good as X-Men 97. But yeah, what I would say is I don't feel like it was worth going through all of these seasons. If I'm being honest, I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Even when it was like, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about in X-Men 97. They feel like completely different things, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
And I don't mean continuities. I don't mean completely different continuity. I think it was like completely different approaches to how to tell stories.
Exactly. Yes, entirely. And then like the thing where the only time where like Boda Maya is like, "Oh, go watch this episode" and all this kind of stuff. It's just like, "Oh, okay, I see how you took this background character and made him more prevalent here." But other than that, does it matter? Not really.
Oh, I just mean I don't think it was worth watching this in full. If Boda Maya was like, "Hey, watch these episodes," I'd be like, "Sure, whatever."
Yeah.
But watching this series in full was not worth it for me.
Yeah.
I just want to say that up top. But yeah, we start with the Felix Covenant. I don't know why I thought that wasn't the name of the episodes, but it's a wacky character. This season definitely just leans into this is just a kid show. Like it feels like the animation, the music, everything is like it's a kid show. Who cares?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Phalanx speaks funny. I think that was the other issue I had was like the even if they weren't full on villains, the antagonists this season were kind of like I don't know who this is. It seems like it was made up for the show, and I know Phalanx weren't. I absolutely know they are part of a comic run, but it just felt like, oh, what happened to like the characters everyone knows?
It does feel like they were like, oh yeah, we did our stuff with Silver Samurai. We did our stuff with the A tier X-Men at the time, or the X-Men characters, and they're just like, it does feel like they're scrambling to like.
And we do know they were like these episodes were made after they're like, oh, we thought we were done.
Yeah,
but it just means that like I'm purely like I don't care for this.
Yeah, because what was it like season 4, which was our last thing, there was like what clearly would have been the series finale, and then what was it, Fox was like, oh, we want more episodes, so they just like that's where you got Morlock Christmas out of, or something like that, where it's just like, oh, this really is filler, but more content.
Again, I like Morlock Christmas more than most episodes that season.
Yeah, for sure, but that could definitely for that to come after the big event, that four-parter, I was just like, oh yeah, okay, this is weird way to continue on this season. It's a weird,
Totally.
weird thing, but it is what it is, and that's what we're here to do. But yeah, it's the Failings Covenant.
Hmm.
I gotta be honest, I completely agree with your take. And it's like, oh, this is a kid's show. We got to do cartoony things, and that's exactly how this season felt to me.
Yeah, overall, I'm sure there's pockets that if I thought about it, they were like, oh wow, we really got into something there. But
Mhm.
for the most part, it's like this is the Phalanx coming in. Then these characters are fun by nature. It's like, well, not the villains, but Warlock in particular.
Right.
It's fun to be around. It's an
Mhm.
interesting design.
Mhm.
He gets to be friends with Beast, but you are kind of just like, I feel like it undercuts. Like, I think there's a moment where you see all the X-Men are being like harvested or whatever they're doing with them, and
Mhm.
you're like, it kind of undercuts it because it's been such a like kid friendly gag, sight gag, and even like bits heavy like arc where you're just like, yeah, visually this is upsetting, but also you haven't really prepared me to feel that much with this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Is this because I do know like in season five, like it's not the this is how much I paid attention to it. Oh no, wait, that's the scent that I have a lot of feelings about. Okay, never mind. Yeah, the Failings Covenant. I just got distracted because my note was like Mr. Sinister. I'm like, oh yeah, he's got a lot. We got a lot to talk about with him in this season, but like it's
Not
definitely
there
not
yet.
here. Not
We're
here. Not in this
that's
two-parter.
and now we can move on to Stormfront, where I was like, this guy, I don't care about what's his name, Archon. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's a character from the comics. Like I said, I'm aware that these characters clearly must come from the comics, but they feel so far removed from what we were doing for the first four seasons that I'm like, I don't care about these people. They seem
Yeah.
so not in the vibe that this show had already set.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he, and also to just be clear, because I was not paying attention fully, he didn't brainwash Storm. She just was happy to be with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Because she has
he
that thing where she just basically goes to every single X-Men and is like, do you understand why I'm happy here? And I don't want, like, I don't really care that you guys want me to leave.
so he didn't brainwash her from a mutant power standpoint, but he definitely did brainwash or manipulate her into being like, hey, let's get married. Let's do this real quick. And I'm just gonna
Yeah.
hide the fact that you're actually going to be a part of the oppressors that we are right now.
No, like he definitely took advantage of the fact that she
Yep.
was looking for the things he wanted to offer, but it's not
Yes.
that it's it's not that he legit just because it feels like such a sharp turn from her being like, what's going on here, to you're right,
Yep.
we should get married. So I was like, did he trick her, or like, I shouldn't say trick her, did he manipulate her with powers, or is he just talking great game right now?
It's just
And Storm is like, okay.
yeah, I he did not manipulate her with powers. It was just regular fuckboy manipulation.
Okay, got it.
'Cause that's what he did. He did a narcissistic love bombing kind of situation, withheld the truth, and was like, "This is what you're gonna do, and I'm gonna use your powers and all this kind of stuff." And I'm just like, "Oh, Storm, you're better than this." Like every other X-Men
This is what
being
I'm
like,
saying, she's better than this. So I was just like, oh,
"Yeah,
okay, I guess I missed where he took over her mind, but then she had that conversation. I was like, oh, I get the sense the show wants me to believe she thinks this is genuinely a great idea and no
yes."
manipulation was involved.
Yeah, and I'm just like, this is where I'm like, oh man, this is just such a kid show at this point because there's no way I believe that Storm, being who Storm is consistently throughout the rest of the series, would have fallen for this kind of thing. But it's just I believe that Storm would have helped, which is exactly what she did. It's like,
That's what
okay,
she does
yeah,
at first. She's like, yeah,
yeah,
okay, I'm here to help.
yeah, but then to turn that help to be like, oh, okay, but we also need this. And I do like in this two-parter where everyone's just like, well, why don't you just turn off that thing?
Hmm.
It's like, no, we can't do that. It's bringing us prosperous thing. It's got like the Ezekiel Sims of like, I was poor once and I'm never going back. And we're never turning off that battery because we don't want to go back to being poor. And I'm just like, oh man, this is so poorly written. And I don't even think like it could have benefited from another part to be like, oh, how did that love develop? I just think like, no, let's get through this as fast as possible. because this was just so out of character for Storm, and it was so dumb.
Because
That she fell
I feel
for
like
fuckboy
Wolverine at one
stuff.
point even says like, yeah, he's fucking with her because her like where she comes from, they used to worship her like a deity, and
Right.
it's like, yes, it seems like she clearly must be being mind manipulated if she doesn't see that that's what's happening now. But I think the show landed on no, she just was really happy that people loved her and she could move away from the X-Men.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just like, all right, well, this, and I don't think there was anything really that they were trying to say about that. You know what I mean? There's no like message behind. I'm just
No,
like,
the
no,
message is just like she's happy because it means she can have a life beyond the X-Men,
yeah,
and it
which
is what it is.
it is what it is. But again, it's that's where it leaves you and I confused of like, wait, was she actually manipulated with telepathy, or was it just fuckboy things that she fell for? And unfortunately, it's just fuckboy things that she fell for.
Yeah, that is
It's
truly unfortunate.
it's so unfortunate because it makes me like, oh, it, I know this season's not, it wasn't supposed to be, I guess, but like the idea that,
That's a very good way to put it. It was not
yeah,
supposed to be.
so to me I'm just like, oh man, how do I look at Storm going forward, because it still happened and that part sucks, but I did not like this 2 episodes for many, many reasons. Because again, everyone was like, why don't we just turn that thing off that's causing all these Earth eruption things? And I guess that's like the deeper analogy of like in the 90s, like this is their version of like trying to integrate like global warming or like climate change into the actual narrative. Which is wild to me because like, we're doing it now and people are like, oh, it's I'm like, no, we were doing it back then too. It never caught on because no one took it seriously. And they
Yeah.
still don't. And it's unfortunate to be like, no, we've been trying since the 90s to get people to recycle, reduce, and reuse.
Well, I mean, I think what we learned was, oh, this is the last I'll say it. It's gonna take a little bit more than consumers to recycle, reduce, and reuse.
Yep, it's corporations, buddy.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
but yeah. Next is the Fifth Horseman. I think this is where I was like, wait a minute, I don't like this at all. Just I feel like there was a different way of drawing Beast in it. There was a different way of drawing Jubilee, and I was like, I don't like it.
Oh,
You've
this
changed
is the
it. You've changed
yeah.
it, and now you've even lost the nostalgia part of this.
Yeah,
Because
the
Beast doesn't have the claws anymore. He's just got like the white fingernails.
Yep.
And I was like, no, no,
Mhm.
you took it too far. I know they used a different studio. It's whatever. I say all of this for us to not just be silent for 40 minutes on this podcast. I'm aware of why these things happened. It doesn't mean I like it. And they
Agreed.
brought back Fabian Cortez, and I was like, I just don't like this character. I don't care about this at all.
Yep. Yeah, it's not a good thing. And yeah, this
So
is where
he-
it gets overtly childlike, these last few episodes.
Like, there's
From
one
the
moment where
animation
they're like,
standpoint.
they're driving and they're like, oh no, there's no bridge. I'm like, there's literally one right beside you guys. Just because the camera's not on it doesn't mean you can't see it as characters I'm supposed to believe are inhabiting this world. Like, the camera already showed the bridge beside you, and then Beast eventually is like, oh yeah, there's a bridge. And I was like, yeah, I saw, yeah, I know. I was not pleased with anything to do with this episode. But yeah, this is the episode where Fabian Cortez is now working for Apocalypse. Or maybe he always was. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. He's working for Apocalypse this time, and he wants a body for him to inhabit. And somehow he was like, not Beast, it'll be Jubilee. And I was like, I would go with Beast. Capturing him might be different, but I feel at one point they knock both of them out. So you probably could have just got Beast.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm no offense to Jubilee, but like,
yes, offense to Jubilee.
I mean, her powers suck compared to everyone else, right? It's only in like 97 that you're like, oh, okay, your powers do evolve at some point. But here, where it's
she
just
did
like,
get out of her bonding with her powers. I gotta say that's pretty helpful. She needed to be knocked out.
sure,
Caliban did help, but she was able to get out of the stuff with her powers.
right? But her powers are largely, here's a fireworks show coming out of my hands, and that's it.
Here's what I'll say. I can't say her powers suck because it doesn't feel like anyone up until this point, and I'm not counting X-Men 97, cares about her powers or
That's
her
true.
really. it seems like she's just there to be there, the kid.
Yes, and it's more along the lines of like I remember the first episode, like the where she like gets in with the X-Men and all that kind of stuff. It's because largely her foster family is like, she keeps breaking all the electronics. We need her controller. I'm like, all right, well, by episode 2, she's not breaking anything anymore. So she
Yeah.
learns how to control her powers really, really quickly. But then it's the idea of like her powers just suck in general. It's like, what are we gonna do? Save money on 4th of July celebrations?
Well,
Cool.
it seems like it's a concussive blast like Cyclops. I don't know if it sucks. It's just, again, no one writing her seems to want to use her in the media we've taken in.
Right, because then there is like the Jubilee episode here, like Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater, where I'm
Do
like,
you want to skip to that? Isn't that the next one?
I mean, we're kind of all over the place. And
No,
again,
we're very much in line with what's going on.
okay, because to me, I'm like looking at this episode list, and it's like Felix Covenant, Deal with the Devil, Long Shot, Bloodlines, then Stormfront, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong list.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so okay, the Fifth Horseman comes, and then on your list, it's Jubilee's Fairy Tale afterwards, right?
Yeah.
What a garbage episode. I did not like
It's not good. To be clear, it is not good. But
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like the show was like, literally only in her dreams could she be an important character.
Yes.
She would have to make up a situation where she could be important to the story.
Mhm.
I understand that at the end, Professor's like, oh, good, you were a good babysitter. None of these kids are scared from what they went through with you, which is an important point to make.
Yes.
But it's like, yeah, she was like the mother hen.
Yeah.
She didn't. You're not really. You're just complimenting a woman on being like stereotypically a woman. Like,
Yeah.
hey, thanks for taking care of the kids. You're great.
Yeah, it's like, all right, here's your worth is you can take care of people that are less powerful than you, which is why they're not on the X-Men. And you're
Yeah.
marginally on the X-Men. It's just, like, it's weird. It's such a crappy episode. I'm like, is it fun to see the other characters reimagined the way they are? Probably with better animation. Yes,
I would
probably
say
it would
no.
have been. But it
Oh
just
no, with better animation, yes. But I
Yes.
did not enjoy the Wolverine interpretation. I was like, ugh.
no. Exactly. I'm just like, oh, this all just really sucks. Because the way they did the Wolverine animation, I'm like, is this Wolverine and Beast together? Like, is that what's happening
Seems like
right
it.
now? Because it's just weird.
I think
whole
I like
thing's
the
just
Magneto
weird.
stuff.
Yeah. The only thing
Maybe.
I liked was, cool, Jubilee has elf ears. Because I genuinely like elf ears. I'm like,
there you go.
that's
So there was
fun.
a plus.
There was a plus. But again, only, like you said, only in a world where it's make believe she's the main character.
Yeah, it's a
She
pretty.
just sucks.
What a slap in the face of
It
Jubilee.
is. It's such a slap in the face. Which
I
is
feel
why
like
when,
even the kids are like, "Why are you the leader of this?" And she's like, "Because it's my story. I can be." And I was like, "Why would you shine a light on this?
Yes,
Why not
it's
just
so
let
funny.
it happen?"
Yeah.
Even the writers are like, I don't think anyone's gonna believe she could ever be the lead of a story.
It would be a situation where like literally all the other X-Men are taken out of consideration, like they're locked up, and like someone else was like, oh yeah, who cares about this Jubilee kid, we'll let her, she'll be the one that goes back and tells Professor Xavier what happened here, like that kind of energy. But it's and I remember this one thing where it's like Jubilee was announced to be a part of like what it was, X3, and people were like, oh, finally we get Jubilee, and I'm like, in my own head, not wanting to make a stir, but I'm like, who the fuck cares about Jubilee? Like, who cares? And
Makes sense. She's like
yeah.
the kid's point of view
Yep.
I mean, basically only in season 1. After that, you kind of, even as a kid, I would imagine, would be like, get her out of here. She's annoying.
Yeah, she's like, she's not doing anything. I want to follow Gambit around. I want to see Gambit adventures. That's what I wanted as a kid.
Well, that's Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater. She, as I said, it is important that she was able to get those kids through a traumatic situation without
Mhm.
them seemingly being traumatized. I'm sure they're gonna have to work through some stuff later, but at least in the moment, they're not like, "Wow, that was the worst thing that ever happened."
Yeah.
And next is
I will
Old
say
Soldiers.
though, I will say one final note on Jubilee's Fairy Tale thing. This further adds to the reason why people like were surprised genuinely that she's Asian, because I'm like, yeah, you're not as an Asian character telling a Renaissance tale story. Like that's
No.
not really a thing. Like,
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that was like, "Oh, she's I thought like, oh, Bryan Singer was just nice and cast an Asian person as Jubilee, and then I was like, oh no, she's supposed to be Chinese, and this
Yeah.
is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous because I'm just like, I'm not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to get her to be like, oh, tell me an old school China thing. I'm just like, no, just be like more Lord of the Ringy as opposed to like more fantasy and as opposed to what she did, which is basically a Renaissance thing. And I'm like, this is
Well,
why I understand why people are like, wait, she's Asian? I'm like,
hmm
yeah, she is Asian, but there's literally nothing about her that indicates that she's Asian.
no,
But
none at all.
yeah. Next
Uh,
episode.
yeah, Old Soldiers. So this is the episode that I remember before you were like, hey, did he always have the claws, or did they put them in? This is clearly confirming they put them in.
Yes.
I mean, to people who don't know, this is the episode where he's back in time. Not time travel. You just go back in time and see Logan pre-Wolverine Weapon X days fighting with Captain America. It's the first time he meets Captain America.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting stuff of him being like, oh, look at your getup, and you obviously know, well, he's going to have a getup like that soon. Or not soon, but one day.
Yep.
But yeah, they would just commit to like, no, he just tried on these claws and they worked for him. And I was like, I wish they didn't do that, because now I'm just like, so did Weapon X know he just liked using those climbing claws and they put them in his head? Like, it's better if, I'm not saying it's better if he always had them. I'm just saying it would be better if it was like this traumatic thing that he was like, and this is not my original thought. I saw it on someone else's feed of like the idea that he wasn't a weapon. He was just a being that could heal really well. There's nothing offensive about that. Not offensive, but like he's not on the attack at that point. He can just heal from stuff that happens to him, and then you turn him into a weapon. Someone that would go on the offense is more compelling story than just like, oh yeah, like they just gave him the blades he likes, and I'm like, oh, all right, well,
I completely
there
agree
goes
with that. Because it's just like it, and I don't know enough about like urban climbing or anything like that, but I don't see anyone ever using that kind of device to stab into the wall. Because it just would not happen.
No, it wouldn't help you at all.
Yeah, it just would not happen, right? So the idea that he had some sort of experience with claws before then, just to give us like, oh, that's what he's doing. But
It's
I'm
the
just
kid
like,
show
this
of it,
is
yeah.
dumb. It's
Yeah.
dumb. I hate it because it's just like Captain America has it too, and you're just like, what are we doing here? But it's the kids show side of things.
I mean, this is the least kid show of the kid shows in the sense that you watch Wolverine try to deface someone's headstone and be like, fuck you, I wanted to fight. There's some adult feelings happening there, and I don't mean sexually. Just him being like, oh, you died before I got a chance to settle the score with you. Like, some real non-kid friendly ideas there.
Yeah, but then a kid-friendly ending where it's like, oh, the person that I was saving back then, which did not look like she aged at all, and they kind of didn't trust that at all.
Didn't care.
And they was just like, all right, sure. Like, I get why Wolverine doesn't age.
What is the thing that he wasn't as bad as they thought? He was a double agent or something?
Yeah, they basically were like, hey, we had to keep you from the truth because we can't trust you. And like the funny thing is, now that I'm reading more X-Men comics, I'm like, yeah, that seems to be a common thread. Like I read one comic where Cyclops was like, yeah, this was the plan the entire time to let you become a vampire and then like deactivate your healing factor so you do that, and then we can reactivate it so that you like turn back onto our side, like all this kind of stuff. And Wolverine's like, yeah, that was a good call. Like it seems like they do that a lot.
Oh my God.
I'm just like, I can see how Wolverine would appreciate that. He's like, yeah, it's, and he goes like, it's nice to know that we have a leader that's actually able to make the tough calls. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that seems like something Wolverine would do. But like, it's funny to see like this version of it where they're like, yeah, we just can't trust you. You're too emotional. You don't kind of think at all. You just act on instinct. So we couldn't tell you the whole story, but we will now, years after the war. And we could have contacted you the entire time. We just didn't. And I'm like, well, that's the kid's part of it, that he didn't get debriefed from the mission or whatever it was properly.
I don't know if that's kids. I think that's still just unresolved issues that he doesn't have answers to.
Right.
He's still in the dark, even though he's clearly proven he can be trusted.
Right.
But yeah, it's whatever. As I said, I didn't love the choice to be like, and I understand they didn't think it was some deep thing. They probably were just like, and kids will like that he used the claws before he got them put in him. It's just not good. I don't like it. It doesn't fully track for me.
I agree with you on
But
that.
I at least like that it was like, hey, this is Wolverine before he was a flat out hero, and he gets to work with this hero.
Mhm.
And as I said, it wasn't completely kid friendly. And I'm not looking for this to be an R-rated fest. I just like that it was something more interesting than just good guys, bad guys.
Agreed. This was it was a really, really great episode. You get to see Captain America in it and all that kind of stuff. Well, I mean, I shouldn't have said really, really great episode.
Yeah,
We've just been talking shit about that. Wow, no, okay. This was fun in the sense that we got Captain America in there, and we get to see Captain America things and all that kind of stuff. And like I said previously, I always like it when Logan's kind of history, his past, is a part of everything here. But then it makes me question. I'm like, is this version of Logan fully aware of everything that happened before the Weapon X thing? Like, is he fully healed, or is that just like an X-Men movie thing that I'm thinking of, like where he completely forgot everything that happened to him, and then he needs Xavier's help to remember? I can't remember if I'm blurring the two lines. I probably am, but
I don't think the show is ever interested in dealing with that. So
gotcha.
Even if it's a thing, I don't think it matters for the purposes of these conversations.
Fair enough. So this is just a Wolverine that just knows everything that he did in the past, which is,
I mean, even
cool.
if he isn't, even if it is something where like, yeah, Weapon X fucked with his head, the show doesn't care.
Right.
Even if you could find someone that's like, no, it's canon, they said, it's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, the X-Men franchise, everything on screen has never been too committed to having a continuity timeline or anything like that. So at least they're consistently inconsistent. But it's fun to see Captain America here. It was fun. It's not a good episode, but it was fun.
Hidden Agendas. This is the Cannonball episode.
Yep.
It also is the episode that made me be like, I guess I don't know Rogue's name. Like, I'm sure I could read it somewhere, but it also confirmed I don't know her last name. And if you look her up, it's like, no confirmed last name. Because I had to rewind it because she goes, oh yeah, my name's Rogue LeBeau. And I was just like, what? No, that's Gambit's last name. And then I'm glad the show paid that off by Gambit hearing it and be like, oh, okay, so you're not opposed to that.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
But yeah, it's basically this the story of Cannonball. He's got super strength when he flies, specifically when he flies. And people are attacking his family for it.
Is this the episode with Iceman?
There's no Iceman episode in this season.
No. Okay. Never mind. That must have been last season. Okay.
Like 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, okay. Oh, God. This is just so blurring together to me because I just want to talk about 97. Like that, and that I will say to our audience right now, that's going to be a good episode. Like, that's going to be great.
It's going to be a longer episode. That's
100%. We're going to be more enthusiastic about it. I'm going to be more consistent as opposed to being like, this is really, really great, but then really talk shit about it the entire time. But yeah, Cannonball. They contact Professor Xavier about their sons being powers.
It's interesting, I guess.
Yep.
I think what's interesting is having watched the New Mutants, I was like, oh yeah, I know this character. It doesn't really matter though. It's a nothing episode. Other than, as I said, confirming, yeah, I guess I don't know what Rogue's name is. It's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I would have bet money I knew her last name, and then I was like, wait, no, I don't. And obviously,
I immediately would have been like, I do not know her last name. I'm just gonna guess Smith, Rogue Smith.
No, she doesn't.
Which is
have
terrible.
A last name.
She doesn't. No, as far as I know,
she does. She just doesn't know it.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happens when you get adopted by Mystique.
Does Mystique even know who she is? Probably not.
Yeah.
But
all right. I think this is your time to shine. I completely shut down and did not really pay attention to this.
Descent?
Yeah. I do
This
not care for this. It's
I
like Victorian era.
Mhm.
This is the origin
Nathaniel
story
Essex and
of Mr.
Charles
Sinister.
Darwin and all that kind of stuff. So I really like this because the thing I really appreciate about X-Men is they're talking about mutant mutations and all that kind of stuff, and of course they bring in the whole Charles Darwin of it, but then they have Mr. Sinister really coming up because one of the biggest things is this is why I don't trust science because science is a tool held by the people that weld it. It's every scientific thing that's happened, they basically kind of used as a way to justify racism, right?
So I think really what you mean is you think it's more important who the messenger is
Yes,
so yes,
yes,
because you don't hate science, you just hate how people use science.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Because science itself is like agnostic, even though it's not.
There's nothing. I mean, it is. It's just people like to use it as you said, like, hey,
Mhm.
this is phonetics and stuff. Like this is, or yeah, like this is clearly the science on why black people are more animalistic than white people,
Correct.
as opposed to if anyone had the ability and the access
Mhm.
to doing their own research, they could be like, oh, you guys are full of shit.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but
100%.
I think any instance that you would bring up would be an instance of faux science. You did
That
not
is
real
correct.
science.
Yes. So this is what I like about this episode is that they go to show you how people are manipulating this kind of stuff. They're using Darwin's research. They're going like, oh, so this is all this kind of stuff. They're justifying everything they're doing, but they're being so manipulative and selective about it. I really do like the psychology of humanity at this point and seeing where okay, it was way back in Victorian era with Charles Darwin, even though I whatever like but it's just yeah, we haven't really changed. The Friends of
No.
Humanity episodes, all that kind of stuff, it shows you that people are the exact same and they're just using politics now instead of the science at the time to justify everything that they're doing. And it's just wild to me to see like yeah, this does track with human behavior and all that kind of stuff. Everything and that's what I really like about this episode is that it just shows it is human behavior, the defensiveness, the fear aspect that will use any tool possible to justify their own behaviors, basically moving the goalpost. And then Nathaniel Essex coming in and being like, hey, I'm Mr. Sinister, I'm just doing all this kind of shit. And I'm like, yeah, this is the evil part of science. That's just like people thinking they're above God and just trying all this kind of stuff. It's a good episode from all those conceptual things, but like at the end of the day, the execution of it's still like the animation sucks. It's goofy, it's
Yeah.
cartoony, but they're touching on some really cool things that I like to see. Execution's not that great, but I think there's a lot of cool things to talk about here. From like a human behavior standpoint, not necessarily from the episode itself, but like seeing how people use science manipulatively and selectively. Like what you were saying, the phonetics, was that the measure of the skull?
Yeah.
Science, that pseudoscience thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good example of it.
I think, yeah. I'm glad you saw all that. I was just like, so this doesn't explain at all why he's so consumed with the Summers, especially since it seems like he was in league with fucking Professor Xavier's descendant, if not
His
grandfather,
father.
than
Yeah.
father. Like it's like, so I just don't get why they mixed those things, and this might be comic accurate, but it was just like I just feel like I have more questions than answers.
Yeah. The episode itself does exactly do that. When they're like it was Professor Xavier, I'm like, are you saying that? I originally thought, I'm like, are you putting Xavier in this? Like,
No, they did
what's
a good.
going on?
They did a good thing of it at one point, making sure you heard the first name, and you're like, okay, so not Charles Xavier,
Right.
but yes, I'm pretty sure it's the same voice actor, and they made a point of like giving him the same eyebrows and stuff. So you are like, is this like a what if scenario, or are we really watching how this guy came to be, and then they make it clear this is not Charles Xavier?
Yeah. Yeah. It's 100%. It is it was very confusing. It was very confusing to say the least. And when they actually used the name again, I was like, okay, it's not. It's his father. Cool, whatever.
Yeah,
but
James Xavier.
I don't know why they would like not give him a cue of being like, hey, you're just doing Charles stuff right now. Just make your voice a little bit more high pitched, just a little bit, or whatever.
He
But
does some subtle stuff to make it different, but
Mhm.
I understand the thread that they were trying to like weave with.
Mhm.
This is how the father of that person would speak.
Mhm. Yep.
But
Yep. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. It just like, oh, cool, it's a Mr. Sinister origin story, but it literally does nothing to be like, why is he so obsessed with the Summers family? Because by all accounts in this episode, you'd be like, wouldn't he be more obsessed with the Xavier family?
yes, and also I feel like this is just being petty, but it feels like he drops the British accent, and you're like, see, like if we're placing him as a once human, then why does he talk the way he does?
Yep.
Like it's not like he was an alien and just whatever he's around, that's what he picks up. You're like, no, this guy lived to an adult as a British person.
Yeah. There should be no reason why he's not continuously British with a British accent the entire time.
Yeah.
There's no reason. It's so weird. It's so weird and inconsistent, but it's just at this point, it's fun. It's funny because of the show.
As I said, I'm glad you liked it. It was not for me, but
Mhm.
I think you did bring up some interesting things. I will never rewatch this, but at
Yep.
least I'll have that in my head if anyone ever makes fun of this episode. I'm like, well, it did examine some interesting things.
But yeah.
All right, graduation day.
Oh,
Now, this
yikes.
starts off interesting because this is the Henry Peter Gyrich guy basically exposing Professor Xavier as a mutant, which I didn't realize people didn't know he was a mutant.
Same.
I was like, oh.
I thought that was like
a
old
secret?
news. I thought that was old news.
I thought that was like the whole point is that everyone, this is the exceptional mutant. People will
Yeah.
accept this guy, but no.
Yeah.
Really
Like
was just like, oh, we were only listening to you because we thought you just liked mutants. We didn't think you were one. All right,
Yeah.
you're out.
that was so weird to me because I'm just like, it was. I thought the entire time he had come out of the closet as a mutant,
Mhm.
and that the rest of the humanity is willing to entertain him because they were like he's one of the good ones kind of thing. And I'm just like, oh wait, he's been outed, and so he's been hiding that the entire time. Like, what the hell?
Doesn't
So weird.
seem like that we were properly set up for that, but also
Mhm.
I should admit for the last 3 seasons I haven't been paying attention very
Yeah.
closely. So maybe it was set up.
Yeah. And yeah, because but I mean, and here's the thing: Xavier does pass. He looks like a non like
Oh, I
he
thought
doesn't
you
look
meant
like
died.
Beast. No, he passes from
Right.
that human examination standpoint. He's like, oh yeah, he doesn't look
I
like
just
Beast.
feel like he's rolling around in a wheelless wheelchair in a world where no one is like, yeah, that's a normal thing to do.
Yeah,
I just
and
assumed everyone was like, yeah, this guy's a mutant.
Yeah.
Look at what he's like floating around in.
yeah, it's
He
like,
can't,
there's-
like, or even if you did think he was a human, you couldn't have thought he was fully human. Like if you weren't like this guy's a mutant, you would be like, this guy's like a time traveling alien or something. Why does he have that floating wheelchair?
and just the idea of like I could see the rest of humanity going like, oh, he married a mutant, that's why he's such a advocate for this, and she's dead, whatever. But none of that exists. It's like, oh, he's actually been outed. And what? It's a weird episode, because it just comes out of
It's
episode comes out of nowhere.
It's literally like the Poochie episode. Like, I have to go back to my home planet now. Goodbye.
Yes. The Poochie episode.
It's. I think having X-Men 97 out actually made this worse because I was like, well,
Yep.
this just seems like set up so that they could have the bait and switch in X-Men 97.
Yeah.
Because the way those commercials work, I'm not going to talk about the actual
Mhm.
show, but the way those commercials work, you would be like, he's dead if you didn't remember the series, which I think happens
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, he's dead, but the show is very clearly like, he's not dead. He's good. They're going to go fix him with Shi'ar Tech. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
They brought Lilandra back and she's going to fix it.
Yeah.
So he's not dead. I mean, he does technically die. They're like, well, he's beyond human saving, but I can save him. That's the note you're left on. But like the X-Men 97 commercials, like, and when he died, it was so sad. And you're like, and I, having not remembered any of season 5, was like, yeah, I guess he's dead. Good. I don't really like that character.
Same.
But
I legit thought, based on the promo material that 97 did, I'm like, wait, he died? And then I was like, what? I felt gaslit. So, like, not having watched the entire series, I'm like, they did not kill Xavier. I know that. And then rewatching this, I'm like, obviously, you got to see the facial response right now, but it was
Yeah.
just like, what are they doing here? Because they were never actually committing to the fact that he died. He's just like, oh, yeah, we're committing to the fact that we don't have human technology to save him. I'm like, okay,
He's gonna be
sure.
gone,
Yeah.
yes. But
And he says
anyway,
his
yeah. I'm not
goodbyes.
gonna say anymore because we're not gonna get into X-Men 97. But
Yeah.
this episode didn't fully land for me because I was just like, and this is not from watching X-Men 97. It was just everyone who knew the show already was like, well, he's not dead. He's just on another planet. And then
Yeah.
this episode was like, yeah, then this is how we got to that other planet.
Yeah. And it's weird to me how, and we have to talk about 97 in order to get that, so I won't do it.
Yeah,
But it's
that's
just
why
the
I'm not
idea of
saying
like,
anything.
where did the rest of the planet think Xavier was at that point in time?
Well,
You
that's
know
why
what
he's
I
got
mean?
like a
Like,
death. He's got a death certificate and everything. They were just like, yeah, he died on Earth.
yeah. But the funny thing is that, okay, if you, legally speaking, if you've been missing for a year, you can file for a death certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is the reality of what the legalities
Yeah, I've
of
seen
like being on
Batman
Earth is.
Begins.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, I'm like, everything still tracks. It's just that we know as an audience, like, no, he went to the hospital in the Shi'ar Empire. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Great. But the fact that 97's promo material is like, oh, Xavier died, and this is Magneto's X-Men now. It's just like, well, that's weird. It's weird because
Well,
none of that is true.
I mean, it is true that it was Magneto's X-Men.
Correct, but like he's not dead is the point, and just like really, really made me believe. I'm like, wait, what part of this did I miss? It was like it was like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer thing again. Like, wait, Dawn's a sister that I didn't know of. What's happening in the first 4 episodes? Where the hell was I? I'm like, oh no, it was just something they gaslit the entire audience for. Great, awesome, scream.
Well,
But this episode, it was yeah.
Basically, they need Magneto to try and save him, and then Magneto stops fighting them long enough to be like, I guess I should save my friend. And then he's like, no, I can't do it. And like, it's fine. Lilandra's here. And
Yep.
then he's like, oh, Lilandra, you're too late. She's like, no, I'm not. Bye. That's the episode.
Yeah, the whole episode is like Magneto's getting ready to declare all out war on humans, but then he decides last minute, he's like, no, I'm gonna boost his brainwaves because they're somehow electrical magnetical signals and Shi'ar Empire, and then all of a sudden that's it. That's the episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly like you said, the poochiness of it. It's like, I have to go back to my home planet, and I'm like, this is
X-Men, do
dumb.
you have anything to say about this whole thing? Yes, I do. I have to go back to my home planet now. Bye.
It's so abruptly weird. I don't get it. But I don't know. I don't know if like behind the scenes they're like, they're gonna get us for a season 6, right?
No,
right?
they
Or
like,
were
"This
they
is
just
it.
fully
This
canceled?
This is what I mean by it's the Simpsons episode because they're like, this is done. We are not gonna do this anymore. He's off on another planet. We're done with this.
Oh my god, just from the comedy side of things, I want to rate this higher, but I know I'm not going to because that would just, I'm not going to meme my rating. The idea is like, no, it was just a poorly done season. They just did not have any idea how they were going to end it in any kind of fulfilling way because they were just like, let's build up this Magneto thing and then have nothing come of that.
And waste a bunch of the season on Fabian Cortez and whatever Kronk. What's his name? Akron.
Yeah, Akron and
Archon. Sorry, I don't. I don't.
I don't.
Considering
even
where they
Archon,
wanted to end.
Yeah.
Considering where they wanted to end, I was like, so nah, not enough Magneto then.
None of Magneto, and they're just like, and let's make our characters look as dumb as possible and act out of character as fast as possible.
I mean, the acting could have been fixed. I can't fault them on how the characters looked. I understand they were because they didn't think they were going to do anything. They needed stuff. They had to commission a different studio to do it.
Sure, but at the same time, that different studio, I don't know why they were like, and we're gonna put our signature on these episodes by being worse than the other episodes. I don't get why that was the decision.
I mean, it is what it is. Next week we'll talk about a show I enjoyed more, and that's something to look forward to. Sorry for the last 2 episodes. I don't think this was our best work in terms of being on top of what was going on. But,
No. But I do believe that if anyone has engaged in the last few seasons, like season 4, season 3, season 5 of 97,
92.
if you are 92, if you are fully paying attention and you felt differently, then tweet us up or something like that, because it just like this just did not track for me and you apparently. So
well, let's rate it. Let's rate it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like a 4. I don't.
This is a soft 4 for me.
Yeah,
it does not. It's not a good thing.
I think they stripped away what they had going for them with the nostalgia by making people look different and move differently, which again I understand why that was, and I don't think that it's cohesive. I can only sympathize with the fact that they didn't know they were going to do this so much. It still did. It's not like that makes up for how it landed for me, and I was the most checked out this season.
Yeah, this season was
maybe, who knows.
I was on Instagram so much for this season. I was just like browsing, scrolling, doing my likes, going viral with a couple of witty comments, whatever. But like, I apologize to the audience, but
yes, I do apologize. I think the last 2 episodes on my end, I'm not going to speak for you. I was pretty like, I don't know what's going on.
I'm right there with you. But what I can promise for myself is that 97, a lot to talk about there. It's going to be good. I am looking forward to seeing what you think. Daniel and I obviously have a good relationship outside of the podcast, and we text each other about stuff very, very regularly. And I have refrained from texting you about 97 because I want it to be all about on camera, on mic, and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be a fun episode for me personally. I'm really looking forward to that because, the last 2 from my end, I apologize. Best work.
I also apologize. Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We're part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Bad Game Movies, Contra Zoom Pod, and Springfield Googleplex. So go to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows, our show, and more shows. If you want to hear older episodes of Spoiled Rotten, please go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. You'll find our older episodes that aren't on thatshelf.com. It's that simple. You can also go to any podcast platform of your choosing to rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, follow, do everything you need to do so you can be up to date with our episodes. And, as Ben said, get in touch with us if you thought that there was more to talk about these last few seasons. We are at TDS Spoiled on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, so please get in touch with us. And you can email us at spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.